we are very proud to be ACBSP accredited.
I'm proud to be ACBSP accredited.
I'm proud to be ACBSP accredited.
Hello, all of my family and friends and virtual brothers and sisters. How are you doing today? Welcome to the Unified Standards and Criteria session. Just wanted to start out with the feeling of the third day of the virtual conference. As a team, the ACBSP team, I feel like I'm rounding third base and heading toward home plate in an empty stadium, and everybody's not yelling at me because nobody's there, but I'm still waving at the empty seats. So here we are on the home stretch with all of you, and I'm waving at you, and you're all yelling and cheering virtually, but I can't hear that either though. But that's okay. Hello, let's have fun. My name is Steve Parscale. I'm the Chief Accreditation Officer for ACBSP. I've been here, blessed to be here 17 years now, and it just keeps getting better every day. This virtual conference has been challenging and exciting and a great learning experience along the way for all of us. So I really do appreciate you being here as our members, being a membership organization. We do not exist without you, and we are here for you. So we're partners with you in this journey on improving academic quality in the world. And so thank you for trusting us to be your partners in that journey. So we'll start off looking at the standards and criteria within the Unified Standards. The Unified Standards go into full effect January 1st, 2021. So we're in a 2-year transition period right now. So anyone starting a self-study right now for reaffirmation or even initial accreditation, they can choose to use the previous standards and criteria or these unified standards that we're going to talk about. But after January 1st, everybody will be using the unified standards, and the current standards and criteria will no longer be available. So standard one, we're talking about leadership, and primarily the business school or business program leadership, not the university or institutional leadership. So when you're responding to the criteria within standard one, think about your business school, your business program, the unit, however you're organized. So you'll notice that as we go through the standards and criteria, the unified standards have been organized around the Baldrige model of approach, deployment, results, and improvement. So you'll see that as we move through the standards, like Criterion 1.1 will be approach, 1.2 deployment, 1.3 results, 1.4 improvement, and we'll move that way throughout most of the standards. There are a few of the larger standards that we have more than 0.4 criteria, if you will. So here in standard one, we're looking for a systematic process to leadership in the business unit. So a dean, a chair, is the lead person that is over the business programs. So values and expectations must be integrated into the business unit's leadership process. So this enables the business unit to address societal responsibilities and community involvement. And we're talking about two different things here. Societal responsibilities are things like taking care of people, diversity, recycling, noise pollution, water pollution, providing education and training that will help society, your city, your state. And on the other side of community involvement, we're talking about giving back to the community. So we're talking about volunteerism, faculty volunteering, let's say to be the secretary, treasurer, for a church using their accounting experience as an accounting faculty member or things like that. So when we get into the other parts of leadership, there's an expectation that the leaders will establish performance expectations for each program. That means goals, and that comes in standard 2 strategic planning. Performance expectations are short-term goals, long-term goals for the department. Now, the Council for Higher Education Accreditation, CHEA, is our accreditor. So ACBSP is accredited by CHEA. We write a self-study. We have a site visit just like you do for ACBSP accreditation. We're CHEA recognized, which is to CHEA synonymous with accredited. So CHEA has some requirements. As a matter of fact, they have new standards for 2019 that are creating some work for us that we have to pass on to you to meet the standards for CHEA recognition. And this is part of Standard 1 and Standard 7 are important towards that goal or work we have to do for CHEA. Now, CHEA uses the terminology student achievement. Now, when this requirement first came out and we were told to report on student achievement, we thought, oh, that'll be easy. We already do that. You know, student learning outcome assessment is student achievement. How well students do in marketing, management, and finance, we're reporting. And that to ACBSP schools is student achievement, but not to CHEA and not to Congress and the U.S. Department of Higher Education. What they think of or want to see when they talk about student achievement are things like attrition, retention, graduation, licensure, pass rate, job placement rates. And there's some more on the next slide. But when we look at these indicators, you know, these are to us more of organizational or institutional indicators than student achievement. But, you know, they're wanting to see that they're getting their money's worth out of student loans. And so this is what they want to see and what they mean by student achievement. So if you look at attrition, for example, you might measure that in a way that you have, you know, less than 40% attrition, less than 20% attrition, whatever number is good for you as a performance expectation in Standard 1. Retention, you know, might be greater than 60%, greater than 40%. And with retention, you don't have to use iPads information. You can just measure the students that stay with you or the students that go on. You can remove them from the retention calculation. You should use retention data that is useful to you when you're making decisions. Graduation by program. So what we want to see, or what CHEA wants to see there, is a table with your programs of management, marketing, finance, accounting, and then you have a goal. A graduation program in accounting, 25 students. In marketing, 31 students. Those may be goals. Now, we're going to see a table in a few minutes that's going to give us a better example of those kinds of numbers. Licensure pass rate, CPA pass rate of 78%, first time CPA pass rate. You can get that information from the state. It's reported by the state CPA boards. Job placement rates. You might have accounting students goal placed at 100% after graduation, and marketing students at 91%. Some of the other indicators they're looking for: employment and advancement, acceptance into graduate programs or higher education program, successful transfer of credit, and other. And these are just some of the examples that CHEA says they want to see for student achievement. Now, you don't have to report on all of these, just 2 or 3 of these items. You pick out the top 2 or 3 or more if you like that are useful to you and set a goal for those and then report the results for those items. So table 1 is used to establish the performance expectations for each program. And this is what it might look like, a student achievement table. And we have this table in the online reporting portal. It's under the evidence file. So when you go into your report, you can open up the evidence file, go to the ACBSP tab, and there is a spreadsheet in there with these tables there. So here you might have, again, attrition, retention, licensure pass rate. There's some examples off to the right. Graduates by program, by year, finance, management, MBA. And you don't have to have trend data for this information. It could be 1 year or 2 year of information. So this is an idea of what Table 1 looks like in the evidence file. And the results of these will be reported in Standard 7, Table 7.1. So when you look at this table, there'll be another column in Standard 7. So you'll have the goal and you'll have the actual results. And I have an example for that here. And again, this table is in the evidence file in your online reporting portal, where you can change the programs. We have examples of finance management and MBA in here, but you put your own programs in here, an AA in accounting, an AS in finance, whatever degrees you have, programs, you erase these, put yours in here. The same down with retention. You might not choose to do retention. You might choose one of the other factors that you could use. And so you would place that here. And then you have your goals in the first column, and you have your results in the second column for 1 year, 2020, 2019, and then graph that to show trend data. You don't even have to have a graph for CHEA, but we put it in the table in case you wanted to use it. So now the most important part about this information from CHEA and these goals and results are to have these linked on your business website to this table, or a table similar to this, or something like this. So you'll see a link here from this community college, and so you should have a link on your webpage, and it can be hyperlinked as student achievement. Here's actually 2 examples, Vincennes and Northern Maine, with links. And so when you click on this link on your business webpage, then it would go out to your business page itself, like this business page of Northern Maine. And then there might be a link over here that says student achievement. In this case, you just scroll down. And when you scroll down, you get to these tables that show graduates in accounting, graduates in business administration, and then enrollment and retention below that. So that's a way to present the material that is acceptable to CHEA as well. So any questions, we're here to help you meet these requirements. And again, I mentioned how the new standards, the unified standards and criteria, are organized into approach, deployment, results, and improvement. And you'll see that as we go along. Deployment, you might use the word implementation, as I've used this model over the years, the last 33 years. Some people thought deployment was too much of a militaristic term, so we put implementation in there to satisfy some of those folks. And under results, there is learning. And Baldrige has added this, their model has changed a little bit over the years, evolved over the years. But primarily, what we do after we collect data from the results, we learn what we're doing well and what we can do better. And that's where we come up with the ideas for improvement. So that is the closing the loop of the model, making the improvements, and then going back to start the process again. Processes are repeatable and improvable. So Criterion 1.1, again, approach. And so the leadership team supports continuous quality improvement. And then it gives you some directions here to complete table 1.1 in the evidence file. And you'll note as you start working through this material, When you get into 1.2, it'll tell you to complete table 1.2, and 1.3, it'll tell you to complete table 1.3, and 1.4, complete table 1.4, and it's pretty much the same table, but you're adding information to the table from the different parts of the criterion. So criterion 1.2 is deployment. So provide evidence that the above described processes are fully deployed across the business unit. That means that if you have in your business unit an accounting program, a management program, and a finance program, that management and finance are doing this, but accounting is not. So that would not be fully deployed. So the criterion calls for these processes to be fully deployed in all of your business programs. 1.3, results. Now, anytime you see results within the standards and criteria, that is a key word for a graph or a table. So that your response to results should be automatically to develop a graph or a table, or update a graph or a table to provide evidence of the results. Results, the important part of results is trend data. So trend data is data over time. 3 data collection points, 5 data collection points that can show longitudinal data and trends up, trends down in your process that you're measuring. So that's why we're asking for a table or a graph, so you can show that trend data, multiple semesters or multiple years of trend data, depending on how often you collect it. If you're looking at student learning, you may be collecting data every semester. So you could have 2 data points in a fall and spring semester. Or if you're collecting data annually, like in a, let's say, the last class, the summative class of a program, then that would be maybe offered once a year. And so you could only have 3 data points after 3 years in that situation. Well, here's a table that goes along with standard 1, and it identifies your processes and your descriptions and key data analysis. So there's social and community responsibility. Down towards the bottom, it's community focus groups, minutes of meetings, list of identified issues. The very bottom, impacts on society, identified issues, parking on the streets around the college could be a society, social issue, community issue. Performance measures, enrollment number monitoring, yearly mission and vision review. Just some ideas on the table to help you think about your own things that you would want to enter in here that would be most useful for you. 1.4, improvements. Provide evidence of key actions taken by the business unit leadership to improve teaching and learning environment based on the above results. So again, you learn from the results. What can you improve based off, what needs to be improved based off your results, for example. Another table of information, and then we get to standard 2, which is strategic planning. And in standard 2, basically we're looking for a written strategic plan. And this is the business unit strategic plan. So a lot of people say, well, we have an institutional strategic plan. Do we really need a business school or business department strategic plan? And the answer to that for ACBSP is yes. For business program accreditation, yes, you do need a business plan. I'm sorry, a strategic plan for your business unit. Now, if you have an institutional strategic plan, you can certainly identify parts of that apply to your business programs. So if you're reviewing the institutional strategic plan and you find 3 pieces in there that that touch your business programs, you can pull those out and take advantage of those and identify them as part of your business unit strategic plan. Now, you need to have a systematic process as well. So the systematic process it could be that you meet once a year, you meet once a quarter, you meet twice a year to talk about your strategic plan. You meet once a year to review your goals, and long-term goals, short-term goals, and or establish goals. And so you have to provide, minutes or notes from those annual meetings or however you meet to improve your short-term goals and long-term goals, or develop short-term goals and long-term goals. And that it becomes part of a systematic process. So at that point, you would, again, take a couple of those items from the institutional plan and dissect them into a way that you could actually develop a goal from them, a goal for the business unit to achieve that would actually help the institution achieve its strategic goals as well. So a copy of the unit's plan must be provided in the evidence file. Results of 2.3, that's basically what goals have you achieved, and have those goals been closed out. And continuous improvement, and that can be improving your strategic planning process itself, or that could be the improvements you make from the goals you set. That's also improvement that you can report in standard 4. So in 2.4, you can report goals that you have achieved that have improved academic quality. That's an improvement based off from your strategic planning. Or you could improve your strategic planning process. Maybe you meet twice a year, and after you have everything in pretty good shape, you change that to once a year. That's an improvement to your planning process. Here's another table for strategic planning. This is deals with short-term and long-term goals. And you have to establish the timeline. The short-term goal might be 1 year or 2 years. A long-term goal might be 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, 3 years. You have to determine, how dynamic your environment is and how quickly things are changing for your long-term goals and your short-term goals. So now we're into standard 3, student and stakeholder focus. So here you have to determine requirements and expectations of your students and requirements and expectations of your other stakeholders. So we'll get into the approach 3.1 and identify what are your student segments. If you look at your population, your student population, you may have undergraduate students, you may have graduate students. That's 2 student segments. You may have traditional daytime students. You may have evening, weekend adult students. There's 2 segments, 2 other segments of students in your population. So you identify your segments, and that will help you determine their needs, because those types of segments have very different needs, if you will. Then other stakeholders, being alumni, family, business owners, the government, administration, faculty. Identify who the important stakeholders are to you and what they need and how you're meeting their needs. And here's a table of 3.1 with examples of graduate students, undergraduate students, employers, alumni, and faculty to help you document your student and stakeholder groups, and working through deployment in all departments and results. Again, trend data. If you can show course evaluations, you can show trend data. With course evaluations, you can have that data every semester. And you report 3 semesters of data or 3 to 5 semesters of data, and you have a trend. Student satisfaction, alumni satisfaction, faculty satisfaction can all be trended and reported in Criterion 3.3. And 3.4, what did you improve based off of what you learned from the trend data in 3.3? Now you might improve the curriculum. You might have some faculty development if you identify some areas that the faculty could use more information on. You might improve computer lab operating hours, change office hours. Any of these are opportunities for improvement that you might learn about when you're collecting data from 3.3 and reporting it. Here's a graph table. I tried to close out this program that's beeping and it won't let me close it, but I'm going to see if I can. Nope, never mind. Try to mute the speaker. So this is a table that we use quite a bit within the standards and criteria. There's a lot of information that is available here. There, I muted it. A lot of information that's available here. This whole table applies to all four criteria: 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, and 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, and so on, because of the different information provided in the column. If you look at the first column, it asks you, what are your measurable goals? Here you'll see an 80%. There has to be something in here that's measurable, 5% or 5 data points or something. So something measurable in column 1. Column 2 is, how do you collect the data to see what the measurements are in column 1? Well, here in column 1, you're using alumni satisfaction will be at or above 80%. That's measurable. You go to, what's the instrument we use to collect that data? It's an alumni satisfaction survey that we send out. We collect data, we bring it back, and we measure the results and we report the results. The third column is, what is your current result? So if you sent it out in 2019 and you got it back and the aggregate faculty or alumni satisfaction was 72%, then that's what goes in this column right here, 72%. The next column, analysis of results. What did you learn from your results? Satisfaction exceeds the goals, but students, alumni requested additional internships. Okay, these aren't matches. Sorry about that. We'll have to update our examples. And then the last column before the graph is trend data, or action taken. Actually, that's your improvement column. So 3.4, 4.4, 1.4, what did you improve? That goes in this last column. And then you have trend data, where you have 3 to 5 measurements in a graph that goes in this table. Now, this table, again, is in the evidence file in a spreadsheet in your online reporting portal. And the way it's built out there, when you go and open it up, off here to the right of the table will be columns of years. In this case, it's 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. But you can go in and change that, let's say 2 years from now, and make that 20 and 21, and put your numbers in here, and the graph will update automatically. These columns will change to 20 and 21, and the numbers you put in the graph up here, 92, 86, will change to whatever numbers you put in the table out here. So the spreadsheet we're giving you is built and designed for you to use and update fairly easily. And you can copy and paste this 3 or 4 times and change it from alumni satisfaction to faculty satisfaction to student satisfaction, and still use the updating characteristics of that. Okay, so standard 4 now deals with student learning, and talking about continuous improvement, outcome development implemented for each accredited program. The results must be communicated to stakeholders. So 4.1, the approach is describe the business unit student learning outcome assessment process. And you'll want to do that for each program that you're accrediting. Now, it may be the same if you're using a core. For example, business core, you might be measuring learning outcome out of a business core for 4 degrees. Management, marketing, finance, accounting, they may all have a core, and you are taking 2 or 3 measurements out of that core that you're reporting, and that process can be described one time. But then when you expand out into measuring the accounting part of it, or the management part of it, or the finance part of it, then there's probably a little extra narrative or description on how you're collecting that data. You know, whether you're using a pre-test, post-test, embedded test questions, a vendor like Peregrine Academic Services, or other tools, internal direct assessment tools. You describe that process. Then in 4.3, you collect the data and report it as results, which is again a graph, trend data, each program seeking accreditation or reaffirmation. Now, if you have specializations or concentrations within a program or with a program, then you only have to report student learning outcomes on a concentration or specialization if it's 12 or more credit hours or is on the student's transcript. So if you have a management program and you have a specialization of human resource management within the management program, and the human resource management specialization is 9 credit hours, you do not have to report on student learning on the human resource management part of it. Now, if the HR specialization is 12 credit hours, then you have to have at least one measurement out of the HR specialization or concentration. Improvements based on what you learned in 4.3. So 4.4 is that improvement, and here's that table that you saw earlier. But again, in column 1, they're looking at a score of 150 or higher for this data. And you get out to the graph, and there is multiple data points there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 measurements taken in this graph. And these slides, this Power PDF actually is loaded in the handout section. So if you haven't already found it in the handout section, you can download it, this presentation, and keep it and share it with others. So standard 5, faculty focus, aligning faculty credentials, skill sets with current and future program objectives. Faculty focus, we're still in the standard itself, evaluating faculty members and ensuring faculty development and scholarly activity. And now 5.1, which actually gets into the approach, and having a human resource plan. And with the unified standards, the commissioners put a copy of a human resource plan in the glossary of terms. So if you go to the glossary of terms and go to the H's human resource plan, you'll find a step-by-step guidance there, a model that you could use to develop an HR plan or modify it, unless you have your own. Or if you have a faculty member that teaches human resources, they could develop an HR plan for your business department. By the way, that reminds me, there's a great opportunity to share this information with your students. Let's take standard 2, for example. If you're developing a strategic plan for your business unit and you have a class that is covering strategic planning, it would be a great opportunity to take the business unit strategic plan into the classroom as a case study. Share it with the students, have the students give you feedback on how to improve it, take it back to the faculty and make any improvements or adjustments you want to based off your input from the students. The same thing could happen with your human resource plan. If you're teaching a class on HR and you want to take your business unit human resource plan into the classroom and use it as a case study, it's a great opportunity for you to share the great things your business school or business department's doing with your students, and at the same time get feedback. So great opportunity there, I think. Deployed all faculty resources. Here is a faculty qualification table. There's 4 levels of qualifications. There's a doctor's, master's, bachelor's, and exception. List faculty by name alphabetically. And you can have faculty on more than one row if there are multiple qualifications. For example, you might have a person that's doctoral qualified in management, but master's qualified in accounting. And so that person would be on two rows with the evidence of those qualifications that allow them to be master's qualified or doctorate qualified. 5.3, results, trend data. And 5.4, improvement. What did you improve based off of what you learned? Here's a table. So faculty satisfaction will exceed 85%. This could go in 3 as well. You might say something like faculty development will exceed 85% of our faculty members annually, something like that. And then you measure that. And a great opportunity is to have your faculty members that go to a conference bring back what they learned and share it with a faculty development meeting and identify that opportunity in this last column for improvements, if you will. Okay, standard 6, business curriculum, and I'm checking on my time. Okay, so standard 6 in the current standards and criteria was a long standard, had a lot of information. And so when the board members started working on making these improvements, they divided standard 6 into 2 and made a standard 7. So they didn't make a standard 7 and write a lot of things to put in standard 7. They just took half of 6 out and put it in 7 and left half of 6 in 6. Because they really, fit well doing it that way. Because standard 6, they left concentrating on curriculum and delivery and those kinds of things. Where standard 7, they went in more into institutional, organizational, business unit performance. So standard 6, looking at curriculum and program delivery. 6.1, design delivery of educational programs and offerings. So here we're talking about online, on-ground, hybrid, competency-based education, traditional education, that's design. A delivery would have been online, on-ground type of information. And deployment, looking at courses taught by both full-time, part-time faculty, if they're comparable in quality and consistency. There's another opportunity for comparison. If you have faculty members teaching a management class that are full-time and you also have part-time teaching the same management class, you could compare student learning assessment results from those two delivery modalities. They're not really modalities, they're different factors, full-time, part-time. But that's a good opportunity to evaluate that, as well as on-ground, online. You can compare the results of those learning assessment results in standard 4 as well. So 6.3, we're looking at associate degree programs only. And here we're talking about the professional component, and the associate degree programs require 25% of the business curriculum to be in the professional component, 4 of the 8, if you will, and this being identifying the 4, A, D, I, F, C, which we're not seeing the book itself on how to identify that. But what this professional component is, it is introductory or principal level courses. So intro to accounting, principles of management. That's what the professional component is. We're no longer looking at general education. So now we're only looking at the business major component below. So there's 2 areas to look at: the professional component, introductory classes, and the business major. And so the gen ed, we're now leaving off of the tables in both associate and backgrad. So now we'll go to 6.4, which is the baccalaureate graduate degree common professional component. There's 12 of those now across the top here in yellow are the undergraduate common professional components. Item number business communications was added as a 12th one. And I don't see it, so I must have used an old example here. But the bottom number should be larger than 30. The classes along the left-hand side in green are the business classes. And take math 1203, part of that financial, 6 hours of financial coverage, and 45 hours of quantitative stats coverage. So this is the backgrad table for the undergraduate common professional components. Now we're looking at number 7 and standard number 7, which is business unit performance. So continuous improvement, unit measures. This is where I talked about the goals set in standard 1 would be measured in standard 7. So we'll be looking at that business student achievement, such as we talked about retention, graduation, and the table. We've already seen this table, so you knew it was coming in standard 7. And that concludes the presentation. I will go up to the chat and see if I can answer some questions. We have about 10 minutes, 9 minutes for questions and answers. And there we go. Okay, it's been a great, and the guys have done amazing. Okay, for student achievement webpage, does this webpage have to be located on the business unit webpage, or can the student achievement information be located on the university's centralized student achievement webpage? No, unfortunately, it has to be on the business unit webpage. And if you don't have a business unit webpage, it has to be on every webpage that's accredited: accounting, management, marketing. CHEA is not going to accept it on the institution's webpage. I'm sorry. Can you have a student achievement information on a separate page, but it should not take too many? No. Okay, I see what Larry said. Yeah, CHEA is going to override that. We really need to have a link there on the business page. Now, if you have a student achievement link on the business unit webpage, when you click on it, that certainly could take you to the institutional web page, but you should be able to find student achievement there for the business program without having to look through 3 or 4 other clicks or 30 pages of a book. Okay, can you discuss the broad stroke difference between assessing program, minors, and certificates? Well, boy, minors and certificates are very focused. So with certificates, if you're talking about 4 classes, 12 credit hours to assess a certificate program, whereas in a program, you're talking about 45, 60 credit hours to assess. And so the program objectives are going to be more macro, because you will actually have program objectives, course learning objectives. And with the course learning objectives, there may be, let's say, 10 learning objectives in the course, and there may be 10 learning objectives in the program. Well, if you have 15 courses, you can only take 1 or 2 learning objectives out of a course to take it up to the program. The same with certificates and minors. The minors, unless they're 12 or more credit hours, would not have to be reported in the student learning outcome. See, if your program is accredited, the exception is for you to show an assessment process for learning in the program. If you can measure learning down to the minor or to the certificate. Oh, that's Larry's answer. I'm sorry. I should have published these. Christy, it's been great. Let me see. Okay, Larry, is there any? I think Larry got to most all the answers. Okay, we have 5 more minutes. If you have another question you want to type in. Thank you, Larry, for responding to those questions. I am scrolling and looking for new questions.
I'm doing the same.
Okay, here's one. If programs were accredited under previous standards, will status and QA reports have to align with the new unified standards after January 21? Great question. The answer is no. If you're accredited under the current standards and criteria, you can keep using the current QA report and status report. So you will not have to align to the unified standards. Let's see, if initial accreditation was under the old standards, does the CPC need to include communications? No, it does not. Business communications, that was from Russell. So no, Russell, if you were accredited under the current or previous standards and criteria, you do not have to include business communications in your quality assurance report. Okay, let me go to another slide. Oh, Larry, you're here. You want to say a few words, Larry? Larry Zachrich is past president of ACBSP. He's been working with us for years and years and years as executive associate director of accreditation for the Associate Degree Board of Commissioners, many other titles. All around great guy, good friend. Larry, we got 2 minutes. You want to say a few words?
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I've enjoyed fielding
I'm
some
not
of the
hearing you
questions.
for some reason, Larry. Your mic's not mute. There, no, now it's muted. So try and unmute it. There you go. See if I can hear you now.
Is it working now?
No, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, we can't hear Larry. I did that, Larry, so you wouldn't look better than me. I don't know. Oh, he couldn't hear me now either. Darn.
Can you hear me now,
My
Steve?
joke went on deaf ears. Okay, well, we're going to close this session out. Thank you all very much. It's been a great virtual conference, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Goodbye, everybody.
We are very proud to be ACBSP accredited.
I'm 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 proud to be ACBSP accredited.